So my wife asked me this morning, she's like, well, do bands play in the bandstand? Like, I didn't even know it was a bandstand, but maybe American Bandstand came with Dick Clark and but in any case, it's called the Bandstand, and not only that, but it's named after Nathan Frank, who was Missouri's first Jewish congressman. And another kind of obscure figure, he wasn't in Congress for very long. He only served one term, 1890 to 1892. But that's what happens. You get into Congress, and from then on, you're the congressman, and the Honorable Mr. Nathan Frank. In fact, his life is really a lot more interesting, mostly for his defeats than his victories. And this will sort of resonate with the present. When he first ran for Congress in 1888, he lost, and then he refused to concede. He insisted, interestingly, that that they had repressed the black vote in particular. And he had really great relations with the African American community. In fact, one of the people who nominated him was a leading black politician who got up there and said, I'm for Nathan Frank. Like me, he knows what persecution means, and also referenced the fact that there was an Irishman and someone else from a persecuted minority who was getting involved in politics. And in a sense, it really is more important that Frank, he was a fighter. He really was a fighter. I'm not at all endorsing refusing to concede when he lost the election. But he went on, he was a good congressman. He had been an extraordinary lawyer. He was an expert in bankruptcy law. And he brought that expertise into Congress to write the first national bankruptcy code. Before that, it had been state by state. So he made a pretty important contribution for a one-term congressman. Another interesting moment was when he had nominated a Jewish man named Lichtenberg for the post of appraiser in the port of St. Louis. Now, I don't know really what an appraiser for the port of St. Louis does, but apparently it was a pretty important job, and it was one that the President of the United States needed to approve. And President Benjamin Harrison said, no, I don't like Lichtenberg for this job. And Nathan Frank, I think showing some serious moxie, accused the President of the United States of anti-Semitism for refusing this. He said there's just absolutely, you can't think of any reason to deny Mr. Lichtenberg's appointment except that he is a Hebrew. So he really was a fighter. He was also kind of known as a bon vivant, as they said. He was a lifelong bachelor, man about town. And one of the details that I have to say Amanda pointed out, because she just loved it so much, is that he was known for his having parties where he was known for his salad dressings. He would just mix an amazing salad. And we were going to be writing to get a fellowship to study salad dressings of the 1890s jointly, hopefully from the Library of Congress.
Going to the historic record.
Yes, and tracking down these salad dressings. He ran for Senate twice, lost both times, got into journalism, was the owner of a newspaper here that was very successful, and then played a role in the 1904 World's Fair, where I believe he was the only Jew on the World's Fair Commission, and had a particular love of the bandstand, which there was a previous iteration of the bandstand, and he really got people together to build a new bandstand, and so we named it after Nathan Frank. Last thing maybe I'll mention, since it echoes back, he was a member of Shari Emeth congregation. His father was one of the founders. Very active member of the Jewish community his entire life. And he also was one of the key people behind, later in life, behind the YMHA and raising money for that building, where he gave a kind of a famous speech at the first fundraiser. So in some ways, Nathan Frank also kind of ties everything together.
Do you know where he moved in the city? Do you know where he moved in the city? Just curious if you came from. Where the salad party was.
So the next step in that, though, the connection to our theme today, is that the Nathan Frank Bandstand, by the 1980s, Forest Park, I didn't live here then, but Forest Park was at its low point as far as city investment and money for upkeep and facilities, things like that. And the Stoller family are the ones that came together to restore the Nathan Frank Bandstand, which is what is the driving force for Forest Park Forever. That's the first big project that Forest Park Forever completes. So it's kind of this cool connection to now. Yeah, which is a lot of people don't know that. You know that we also have the monument to Rabbi Itzerman on the far east end of the park as well. So there's other history to be seen in Forest Park as well. Thank you guys so much. We're going to head now to the history.